Well, welcome everyone to another episode of Quench, where we celebrate and quench our thirst for knowledge and connection. I'm Andrea Emmer Robinson. It's great to be with you all. I said in my introduction there that welcome to my home in wine country, but today we're in a special location. We'll get to that in a second. I want to remind everybody to please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already, so you always get a reminder of these episodes. And I'll talk to you about that in just a second, what tonight's episode covers. But it's great to have you with us, and we have an incredible, fun, and really different episode for you tonight. Last month, our episode was #Champagne Day. I would love to say that every day is #Champagne Day, but for me, it's more like #Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa Valley and Chocolate Day, because that is more of my daily ration. But it was a really fun theme with Josh Kelly from the Meadowood Wine Center, as an educator there. Tonight's theme, though, is super special. I'm calling it Where's the Reef? Because you guys probably remember the Wendy's commercials, Where's the Beef? And a lot of us are trying to eat less beef these days. A lot of us are trying to eat more seafood. And I think a lot of people have very sort of picky and I think wrong ideas about what goes with seafood. And the last thing they would do is pair Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon with seafood. So we're going to do that tonight. We're going to really bring together several vectors that are really important to that whole equation. Sustainability of sourcing, both in the seafood and the wine. We'll talk all about that. And then preparation, we're going to debunk and sort of remove all of those fears that you have of cooking with seafood. And then, of course, pairing. So with that, the last episode we talked about, and tonight's theme is, of course, Where's the Reef? Sustainable seafood and wine. And we've got three incredible piece parts to that. So I've got great guests from the Blue Food Cookbook and from Fed by Blue, which is an educational resource for sustainable seafood. And then, of course, we have an incredible book that Fed by Blue has just come out with, called the Blue Food Cookbook. It just came out last month. I've been cooking from it. You got to get it just in time for the holidays. Get your hands on that book. And we have incredible guests who collaborated on both the book and a documentary called Hope in the Water. And let's jump right in, though, to the executive producer of that incredible documentary, 3-part series that you should check out. Let's jump right into getting our interview guest here, Andrew Zimmern, the co-author of that book. And Andrew, first of all, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So you're on book tour right now, and just talk about where you are right now, and is there a book tour appearance coming up, or are there some coming up in the near future where people can go and get the book signed?
Well, they can get the book signed several different places. Lots of the bookstores that we've stopped at for the last 4 or 5 weeks. Majors and Quinn in Minneapolis, Harvard Books in Cambridge, Buxton Books in Charleston, South Carolina.
I love that one.
The Warwicks in La Jolla, California, and now serving in Los Angeles are all carrying signed copies of the book. So is Kitchen Arts and Letters in New York City. If people want to give a signed version, a signed copy is a holiday gift. And I obviously am in New York and Minneapolis a lot. So Majors and Quinn and Kitchen Arts and Letters will just get restocks of the signed copies. I'm hoping that the whole world will buy a copy. What author doesn't want that to happen? But I really think that this is a very important book for a lot of different reasons. It's why I was so eager to put my name on it. And it dispels a lot of myths. It challenges a lot of preconceived notions about seafood.
Right.
And it opens up, I think, what would be the opposite of a Pandora's box? It opens up a beautiful wealth of information, wisdom, and most importantly, 145 delicious recipes. This is a cookbook. It's not a textbook, but it does put forth a lot of ideas, and I think gives people a chance to think, which I actually think is what a good cookbook should be all about. I'm very disappointed in the vast majority of cookbooks that I see come out these days. They don't have a point of view. They're written by chefs that may be very talented, but I think most of them should have waited until they actually had something to say, something different, something unique. I've predicated my entire career on trying, emphasis on the word trying, to be an only and not a lemming. So I don't think we need another sheet pan dinner. I mean, they don't work anyway. I mean, it's one of the stupidest hacks of all time. But what we need is a Bible for seafood that gives us the permission to fall in love with seafood, that convinces anyone who spends any time with it that seafood is what should be on their dinner table the majority of the week, not the minority of the time during the week.
Well said.
That it's not expensive, and that the question isn't fresh or frozen. The question isn't wild or farmed. The question should be, to anyone behind the counter at the supermarket or the big box store, where's it from? And take a look at how it was handled. And if it checks those boxes, go make seafood what's for dinner.
So I love that. And first of all, a couple of things that you said. You mentioned several great independent stores, bookstores around the country where you've been signing the books. Wherever people can find it, there's lots and lots of possibilities. I know that you have it available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble if people can't get there, but those signed books are really super special. Kitchen Arts and Letters, if people haven't been there in New York City, the next time you go, especially if you go for holiday cheer, get up there and check out that place. It's fantastic. But let's go back to, there's a couple things, because while I have you, we do need to talk about the documentary. We'll circle around to that, because you said a few things about the book that I have gotten out of it that I think are really important, and a couple of things that I want to ask you about. The first one is, you mentioned fresh or frozen isn't the question, and I want to take it a little further and have you tell me something that I've understood to be true, which is that sometimes frozen is your friend when it comes to seafood, because it is frozen really fresher than it could ever get to you without having been frozen. So people shouldn't be afraid of frozen seafood if it's sustainably sourced otherwise, right? Is that fair to say?
I think it's a little bit of an understatement. I would say not some of the time, most of the time. The technology now, both in the aquaculture world and in the wild fisheries world, is that with any substantial species that comes from a well-managed fishery, they have technology that is now developed to the point where fish is dropped to such a cold temperature so quickly, immediately after being filleted or gutted, in rare instances, but I have seen it whole, that is staggering when it's defrosted slowly, to the point where when I've filleted a whole salmon from Alaska, which I did this past May, I was so stunned at the fillets. I called the person who sent it to me and said to him, "This is absolutely remarkable. I cannot tell it from fresh." And I asked him how many weeks ago it had been frozen. He said it was from 2 years previous.
Wow.
And he had sent it to me. He had sent it to me on purpose that way. The technology is amazing. What's more, frozen is your friend when it comes to convenience, right? Because it could be in your freezer already, but also on your pocketbook. Right? If something is frozen, that's a preservation system, and it allows the retailer, whoever that is, to pass the savings on to you. So I buy a lot of frozen fish because I can have it. I can buy portions or fillets or small whole fish, keep it in my freezer, and when I'm ready to use it, which is 3 or 4 nights a week, it's right there and ready for me to have at it.
That's fantastic. So that's something that people should really keep in mind. Now, the next thing, and you alluded to it, farm versus wild. I think we're here in farm country right now, and there are farmers of agricultural products the world over who choose sustainable farming methods. This is true of fish farming as well. You can find farmed fish that's sustainably and responsibly farmed, and you're not making some sort of a trade-off from a health or an environmental perspective. Is that correct?
I'm assuming you've been in a supermarket sometime in the last week.
Yes.
And you've probably been in supermarkets many times over the course of your lifetime.
Yes.
Have you ever heard anybody tap someone on the shoulder who has an apron on at your local supermarket and ask where the wild chickens and wild cows are? It's
No.
non-existent. We
Exactly.
penalize the seafood industry for farming seafood because our vision of it is something that perhaps existed in the late 70s and early 80s
Right.
when the industry was not as well regulated as it is now. But more importantly, it was a nascent one. Using some, aquaculture has been around for thousands of years, but obviously in main production over the last 60 or so years. And the first couple decades of fish farming around the world, a lot of mistakes were made with how we feed the fish, with the number of fish in a pen, with what the makeup was of the netting, and I could go on and on and on.
Right.
All those things have virtually been erased from the industry. Now, this does not mean there are a few bad actors, but I would make the case that there are probably more bad actors in the wild fisheries space who are not playing by the rules because the regulations are very, very, very difficult. An aquaculture or farmed environment is one that can be visited at any time by
Right.
any regulatory group or inspector. Really simple, right? There's a location, you go,
Right.
you knock on the door. Boats at sea, much more difficult. So
Right.
I think we just need to remember that the questions that were relevant 40 years ago, wild or farmed, fresh or frozen, are no longer relevant today. Was it responsibly sourced? And you can look at how it was handled and you can make your decisions there. And there are always people wherever you're buying fish who will answer the questions for you. And then you have 145 recipes of deliciousness and a lot of wisdom about ways to cook fish that I think are also mythologies. Oh, my house smells every time I cook fish, or I don't have the confidence or the skill set to cook fish. And
That's what the book's for.
But I also kind of call bullshit on either one of those things.
Let's hear that.
It's much easier. It's much easier to cook fish than people realize. When I said before it's a convenience food, the vast majority of recipes in the book are ready in 15 minutes. Or less. You'll have more. It'll take you more time to throw together your side dish, and we also, I think, present a really good case. My favorite recipes in the book are for the steamed, poached, and braised dishes, which are
Right.
all so forgiving when it comes to cookery. We've convinced ourselves in America, not everywhere, but here in this country, that fish somehow is beyond our ability to cook at home. 75% or thereabouts of the American fishing industry's catch gets exported. Of what stays at home, 75% is served in restaurants. And we eat it at a premium price. And I'm pro-restaurant. I mean, I co-own some restaurants. I support the restaurant industry. I think it's vitally important that we spend more time in restaurants. But oh my Lord, we to eat out and to only be enjoying
Having your
seafood
seafood
in a restaurant and not at home goes against the personal wellness imperative and the existential planetary imperative of preserving our climates and ecosystems, of protecting our oceans, rivers, lakes, streams, and ponds, but also taking care of ourselves. As we age, it is vitally more important that we consume more and more seafood. There's nothing better for our brains. There's no food that's better for our hearts. When it comes to center of the plate protein, there is no better choice for you and I or anyone listening this than seafood. And so, we should be enjoying this, 1, 2, 3 more times a week, and not cooking what most people are cooking, which is commodity beef, pork, and chicken.
Right, and so well said, and this is the book to get you over the hump with that. I want to riff off of something you said, though. You talked about center of the plate protein, but let's move it over to one of my favorite little write-ups in the book, which is eat your vegetables, and the notion of sea vegetables. And you'll be proud to know that I'm here with your collaborator on the documentary in the book. I made her recipe with dulse, so these dulse and chocolate chip brownies that we'll be tasting here a little bit later. But you talk about some sea vegetables, and can you just give people a little quick understanding of where those can go in life? And I'm going to be speaking with Jen here a lot more about that, but from your perspective, what are some quick and easy ways that people can throw some sea vegetables into the mix?
Rehydrate some dulse, some hijiki, some wakame, some sea lettuces, some kelp, some kombu. Rehydrate it and simply toss it into your favorite stir fry. Utilize it in your favorite salad recipe as yet another addition in that chopped salad that people are so commonly serving at home. There is. I mean, you said you're in a special location. I don't want to give it away, but I'm assuming you're in California.
Yes.
I just learned last night there's 300 edible species of sea vegetables in coastal California alone. Why are we eating only 2 or 3 of them? Seaweed is the single healthiest plant of any kind, including terrestrial plants, when it comes to health and wellness. It has more nutritive value than anything else you can put into your system. And in fact, it's so high in glucosamine, chondroitin, and collagen that as we move
people
around,
are taking in a supplement all the time.
Oh my God, they're paying a fortune for it as a supplement. Just eat your medicine, right? Eat your vitamins. I mean, we talk about it all the time with terrestrial ag, and yet, farm seafood and wild fisheries are penalized simply for existing. It is the great disconnect of my professional food life that seafood is not honored and eaten more often. I would also say that the great thing about seaweed is that because it has a lot of salinity in it, because it has a lot of these very special characteristics as a food, when we add it to something else, it actually makes that something else taste yummier. I'll give you a great example. I cook a lot of Chinese food at home, and there's some very traditional Chinese wok tossed cabbage dishes where you just flash an Asian cabbage varietal with a little bit of ginger and garlic, maybe a tablespoon of a really elegant soy sauce on it, and just serve it plain. Maybe a little sprinkle of chopped fresh chili or something, but very, very, very simple. When I add rehydrated kombu, julienne, really, really fine, or Japanese hijiki, or Alaskan wakame, or some other, or dulse, and add that into the mix, it provides an insane umami component to that cabbage that with the soy sauce, it makes the whole thing more craveable. And everybody at my dining room table says, "Oh my gosh, what is that?" And I usually change the conversation. I don't want to answer it. I just let them keep ordering, scooping up seconds of it. And they're like, "It's not just cabbage." And they're right. It's not just cabbage. It's better than cabbage. It's cabbage and seaweed. Cabbage and seaweed and cauliflower, really any cruciferous vegetables, they have an incredible affinity for each other. And snow peas and sugar snap peas, as we head into that season, are extremely well paired with seaweeds. We should be eating a lot more seaweed. It also supports a lot of women-owned businesses around the country, a lot of entrepreneurs around the country, a lot of fishers of all types, but especially lobstermen in Maine. And I use the term lobstermen to embrace both men and women who ply the waters and pull traps out of the Atlantic Ocean. When a lobster trap goes down, it's essentially a weight and a rope. That's all you need to grow seaweed as well. And so this is providing massive income boosts for an industry that really needs an injection of capital. And that's the American fishing fleet. Say that 5 times fast.
Exactly.
And, as the people who grow, prepare, and transport, box our food are under assault, their livelihoods and their paychecks in this country. What a fantastic way to both support small businesses and eat really nutritiously at the same time.
Indeed. Well, I know you've got Andrew, this is fantastic. You've given everybody so many incredible ideas for just.
One last thing about seaweed.
Yes.
And you guys can have this argument after I'm gone. But I don't think it's tricky to pair red wines with seafood of any kind, because it really depends. Really depends on how the seafood is prepared and what's in it, right?
100%.
And I serve in my house light red wine varietals with Cioppino and Bouillabaisse all the time. Although there are some more full-bodied white wines that go beautifully with it. But
we're gonna roll right into that.
Has such distinctive flavor profiles. It's even easier to prepare. And quite honestly, you mentioned champagne, seaweed and champagne.
Oh man, you had me at seaweed and champagne. I love it. Well, that is so fantastic. We're actually going to go straight to that. Those are some great ideas, and I'll go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. We are in the Napa Valley, and we are going to pair red wine with seafood. So we're glad to have your imprimatur and your sign off on that.
People are losing their minds. Not red wine with fish.
Yes, exactly. But we got the antioxidants in the wine, and we've got the omegas in the fish. So we are off to health food land right now. So thank you so much. All the best with the rest of the book tour. We'll talk to your collaborator, Jen, about the documentary, because I know you got to run. But this has been great, and see you soon. Thank you so much for a great book and the great documentary and all the lessons. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Cheers. Take care. All right, well, let's break this open. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and bring us wide for the whole group because let's toast, first of all, to the book.
Cheers.
And this incredible, that was an amazing interview. And when you guys get to watch it after the fact, you'll see we learned so much from Andrew Zimmern about sustainable seafood. And we're going to be talking all about that and preparing some incredible wines here. But first, I want to let everybody know that we are live at, where is my logo? We are live at St. Supery Estate. I'll show you that in a second. And we actually have an in-person audience. So I'm just going to turn this around for one quick second and let you guys say hello. Whoops. There we go. Everybody give a wave. There they are. So everyone who's watching at home is wondering, how did they get one of those seats? And it's called being a friend of the house. But what we're going to do now is we'll jump in really quickly. I just want to introduce my guests here. I have Jen Bushman, who is the executive director of Fed by Blue. And I mentioned before that it was it's an educational source and advocacy for sustainable seafood. And it's interesting to me because when I was when we were talking about it, and also when I was reading about it on the website, it seems to have started out from that question and confusion about, like, is wild versus farmed this big bugaboo? And Andrew talked a lot about that, and talked about how there's so much standard set out in the farm seafood world now. But just why don't you take us into the documentary, because Fed by Blue, that's been a big initiative for you guys. It's a 3-part series on PBS. I watched it all in a binge session, and then I came away like really wanting some sea urchin and some of the other things that were talked about. But just talk about that a little bit. Just tell us about the documentary, how it came to be, and
Yeah, well, I mean, the Foods from Water actually feed 3.2 billion people on the planet as part of their nutrients each and every day. And Fed by Blue was really founded because we're going to need this food source. The UN, the Eat Lancet report actually just came out and said that if we are going to eat within planetary boundaries, we're going to have to be eating foods from water.
Right.
And the foods from water are made up of things like farmed fish, farmed bivalves, oysters and scallops and things like that, as well as fish.
Right.
Well-managed fisheries and also marine protected areas that help to rebound the areas of the ocean. But it's also the nearly 1 billion people that eat foods from fresh water. So we often think about like our fish and seafood and it only coming from the ocean,
right.
But it's the trout that's on this menu for today. So it's a really important part, and we felt like that narrative was really important telling. And so whether it's through our school programs, grades 6 through 12, or it's the docu-series, we felt like, there needed to be these major media moments where you saw that there was hope that we could really be able to build a robust food system from what's called blue foods, which are foods from water.
Right, right. So we're going to talk now about how we can expand our wine horizons in terms of pairing seafood and wine. And we're here at St. Supery Vineyards and Winery, and I'm going to just introduce Emma Swain, and I'm going to actually have you hand the microphone over to that because we're a little bit strapped on our mics. But Emma Swain is the CEO of St. Supery Vineyards and Winery, longtime friend. And just we're here at a place that has one of the great winery chefs. And then we're also here at a winery that has some extraordinary wines. Tell us what we have here, and then I've got questions for you about the vector between seafood and wine and sustainability and wine.
Well, it must be over 10 years ago, we were sitting around the management team and we said, what is best with great sustainable wine? And we said, sustainable seafood. And we started thinking about different ways to pair it, working with the culinary team, working with winemaking and our sommelier team and wine educators, and just saying, oh gosh, there's really nothing like Sauvignon Blanc and seafood. And then we said, oh, maybe we should say yes to red wine and seafood, because there's so many options of layering the flavors in your dish, just like we layer the flavors in the wine when we're blending. And so all of the wines today are grown here at St. Supery Estate. They're 100% estate grown, produced and bottled at our own vineyards, and they're all sustainably farmed. We've been sustainably farmed since the beginning, but we got certified Napa Green here in Rutherford in 2008 for the vineyards, and continued to add to that and added the winery as certified Napa Green in 2012. We were the first winery to be able to put that on our bottle, and we put it on every single bottle of wine we make. And we have a lot of other certifications for gold level international wineries for climate action and sustainably farmed and fish friendly farming. But we get those certifications just so that our customers know that we really are doing what we say. Right. And I think that it's the same thing with the seafood, is to be certified and to make sure that the Ora King salmon has the ARFID code on it, and you can trace that fish back and know where it came from.
Which is great. Can you just, Jen, tell people a couple of the things to look out for in terms of certification so that they can be confident?
I think so. On fedbyblue.org, there's actually a section called Seafood Scout, and it really all starts with the questions you ask, because it is a big seafood case. I mean, the reality is that beef, if it's whether it's naturally grown, whether it's organic, or whether it's conventional, chicken the same, right? It seems pretty easy, pretty linear. But the problem with the seafood case is there's like 30 different options.
Got it.
So I think that first and foremost, you want to ask the question, where did this come from? And if they say it's farmed, then you want to ask, what was the farmer? Because most of the time on the actual tag, it only says species and country of origin.
Yeah.
So you want to ask that. Sometimes you'll also see a certification label that often will be the Aquaculture Stewardship Council, so ASC, or MSC, Marine Stewardship Council, Seafood Watch, which a lot of people know in Northern California, and then of course Fair Trade, because there are some fair trade seafood.
Fantastic.
But it really is about you knowing and asking the questions, because that's what's not happening, is just asking where your seafood comes from and making sure that you're getting an answer. We all can use our phones. I mean, it's pretty easy. You could go to seafoodwatch.org. Someone gives you an answer. It's like a green light, red light, yellow light system. And if there's a red light on it, you don't want to order it. So it's actually pretty simple once you start asking the questions.
Fair enough. So Emma, I'm just showing the wines that we have in front of us here tonight. We've got the St. Supery Dollarhide Estate Sauvignon Blanc. We have the St. Supery Vier 2. We have the St. Supery Elu, and we have the St. Supery Dollarhide Estate Cabernet Sauvignon, which I'm just going to say right now, I made the dish for that, and I'm pretty excited about it. But and I also put up the Napa Green certifications that you guys have here, so that everybody knows what they're looking for on the bottle. Because most of the wineries that go for that certification, they have a lot of signage. They have it on their websites, but they frequently put it on the back bottle label, which is a really great thing as well. And so that really, and it's two things, right? It's very distinctive. It's the winery, because you're not just talking about inputs in the vineyard, but you're also talking about the whole full circle of that. But let's go through the wines, because we do have an in-person audience, and I know everyone wants to taste and talk about them. When I smell this Dollarhide Estate Sauvignon Blanc, I'm somewhere between like lime sherbet and a mojito and key lime pie or something. All of those things sound pretty yummy as I think about it.
It's really expressive. This is the 2023 Dollarhide Estate Vineyard Sauvignon Blanc. So this is from the oldest parcel of Sauvignon Blanc we have on the property. It was planted in 1985. And old vines make great wines, right? You get so much more integrity as the vine gets older, the intensity of the flavors of the fruit. It's just delicious. It's 100% Sauvignon Blanc, but what we do a little bit differently with this is we do 15% is barrel fermented in new French oak.
Okay, wow.
And then we do surly
So pretty.
aging for 5 months. So you'll find the wine has a lot more texture and volume on the palate. So we're gonna have a broader range with food. And it's delicious sipping on it like this, but I also get some of the more tropical notes and the bigger range with food as you can kind of move along to a little bit heavier dish with that.
Maybe it's that oak that's giving me that almost meringue quality that would come across in the key lime pie, or maybe that's just my misspent youth. And we've got James Kelly in Florida is asking what they eat a lot of grouper, and what wine do you suggest? I would go, I would say, okay, well, how's the grouper done? Is it fried on a sandwich, or is it blackened? And I would change things around. But so we'll talk about some of the possibilities there in a second, because we've actually got a cool fish dish, James, that you could use grouper in, that we're going to really basically we're going to be ambidextrous on that and go both ways. But let's talk about the next wine.
So the next wine is our Vertu, and so this isn't one particular varietal. It's a Semillon and Sauvignon Blanc blend, and the Semillon, it brings this great viscosity to the mouthfeel, and it has some concrete fermentation, some barrel fermentation in new oak and stainless steel, and some of that surly aging, and so you get the brightness of the Sauvignon Blanc, but then you also get a little tiny bit of malolactic fermentation is also adding to the volume and texture on the palate. This wine, it has a huge range with food. I mean, in your example, I would be putting this with that blackened grilled grouper, and the Dollarhide Sauvignon Blanc if we were doing a little more, gentle pairing there.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, actually. So let's jump into the reds because we actually have some food ready. Are we good? You're good over there? Because we're going to taste a couple of dishes from the book. Our in-person audience is as well, so hopefully y'all came hungry. But let's finish rolling through the wines. Why do I like to do that? I like to really profile them ahead of time because for me, with the Sauvignon Blanc, I'm looking at the acidity, that squeeze of lime, almost that is going to come into the seafood dishes, and for the with the Virtu, it's richer. It is more brioche and kind of more toasty, and that's a profile that I'm seeing there with that. But then let's talk about what we see on the next wine, the Elu.
So the Elu is our red Bordeaux varietal blend. It's almost always all 5 red Bordeaux varietals. And for us, it's sort of the best of the season from our 2 properties. So it's from our high elevation Dollarhide Ranch, where we're getting a lot of structure. We've got some Malbec that's bringing some juiciness to it, some really structured Cabernet Sauvignon, and a little Petit Verdot. And then from Rutherford, we bring in Merlot, Cabernet Franc, and also Rutherford. So we have a wine that's seamless and just this long, beautiful texture and freshness. So there's good acidity in the wine, and it's bright on the palate, even though it's got some great whole berry barrel fermentation.
Absolutely.
And volume on the palate. And so it, too, I think is going to have a nice range with the wine.
Fantastic.
And then the last wine that we have is the Dollarhide Cabernet, which is essentially 100% Cabernet Sauvignon, and from the Dollarhide Vineyard, from Parcel 8. It's a single vineyard Cabernet Sauvignon, but it's got some great concrete fermentation that's maintaining that freshness on the palate, some oak upright fermentation, whole berry barrel fermentation. And so you've got a lot of layers of flavor from those different fermentations, so I think it's going to be nice with different layers of the food.
Absolutely. And speaking of food, we have this insane dish from Chef Vince here that is just outrageous. I have to show you. And this is, okay, he called it, I think, a fish and chip salad, and I didn't know what to think of this. It's got little potato chips in it, and then it has got, I don't know if Chef wants to come over and tell us. I'll hand you the microphone. You'll probably have to squat down a little bit between the heads there.
Yeah,
How are you?
nice
How
and
you
tall,
doing?
Chef. Yeah.
So the salad was probably one of the most fun dishes that I saw. So fish and chips, but it's a salad, and I love fish and I love chips. I love them together, and I think a little bit of fried potato, with a little bit of smoked trout and all these other wonderful ingredients: cucumbers, tomatoes, dill, lots of herbs, lots of flavor, and a honey mustard vinaigrette. It's really killer, and I think it's very dynamic. You can go with red wine, you can go with white wine.
Wow.
And kind of check all those boxes.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Thank you. Look at this. Okay.
Talk about where the fish came from.
Yes. Talk about the fish. Or do you want to take that?
Yeah, because the fish,
Thank you,
this
Chef.
is
Thanks,
such a
Chef.
great story. So this smoked trout is one of these fish, I think, that people think of as kind of a cheap fish. It's been around for a long time. Certainly, it's something that we've been raising. I mean, we've had trout in the United States, both wild and farmed, for over 100 years. Right. But this is really special, and it has a special connection to Hope in the Water, because our collaborator on the series was David E. Kelly. And David E. Kelly is Ally McBeal, Big Little Lies, The Undoing, L.A. Law was one of his famous ones, Boston Legal. He is an avid fisherman. He's a fly fisherman. But his answer, along with his wife, Michelle Pfeiffer, was to become trout farmers, that they felt like they could really help the population of salmon to be able to rebuild those populations and do something that was really sustainable, that had the same type of mouthfeel, the same type of flavor. And they farm 86% of the trout, green rated, so green light on that one, called Riverence out of Idaho. And it is the most delicious fish, I think, and incredibly versatile.
It's delicious, and it's delicious with both of the first 2 wines that I've tried it with.
So if people are looking for this trout, this came smoked, so it's and then is there a brand name we're looking for?
Riverins.
Riverins, okay.
But
Ooh,
you could-
like
Idaho trout.
reverence, but riverins because in homage to that trout are traditionally river fish, freshwater fish.
Yes, and
This is
freshwater from Idaho.
this is amazing. I remember going trout fishing with my grandfather, and then we would clean the fish and fry it in cornmeal on a Coleman stove, like outside in the backyard.
Love it.
And
Awesome.
those are some of the great memories. We'd make our own tartar sauce. Not really. I mean, we would take mayonnaise and then put the stuff in it, the pickles, but the pickles were homemade. This is just fantastic. And what a great
Beautiful.
way to get fish into your diet, because this already comes, it's just ready to go out of the package, correct?
Well, that's the whole thing is I feel like smoked trout, something like this is a pantry item. It lasts for several weeks in the refrigerator.
Right.
You can go and buy it. It goes a long way. This is great in pasta. When you think about like, it just is.
yeah.
And this is one of the things, we should talk about tinned seafood as well, because this is just
Let's grab
one
some.
of those. Because this also has become so hot. Tinned seafood now, you're seeing everywhere. This is one of my favorite lines. This is Fish Wife, but this is the most delicious smoked salmon. It is a farmed salmon as well. You're very familiar with Quarry.
Yes.
Arctic. So this is a third generation family farmer from the Arctic Circle.
Wow.
And this, I mean, tinned seafood goes a long way too. You can just sprinkle it over things. You can actually eat it with a fork straight out of the tin. It's so delicious.
It is. And it makes me think of years ago, I did a television show for on board Delta Airlines, which, by the way, I just had a lot of fun this week pairing for a future menu. I think it goes on in January. Saint Supery Sauvignon Blanc with dishes
awesome.
from Jose Andres, who's the great chef and World Central Kitchen's founder, who is a collaborator on the
I was
documentary.
going to say, and he's in the series
Series,
talking
yes.
about the work that he did in Puerto Rico,
Yes.
and helping rebuild the fishermen, the farmers and fishers' equipment in order to be able to go out, learn how to actually fish more sustainably.
Right.
It's an incredible story.
It's unbelievable. So when I did this story with Jose, this show, it was a segment done in Catalonia, in Barcelona, at a little kind of tavernetta called Quimet and Quimet. I think they still operate. But there was a whole wall of beautiful tinned seafoods, and they all looked like Christmas presents. They're beautifully packaged. It's unbelievable. And he was
Inside,
like, yes,
it's an old art.
Yes.
And it's mostly women.
Yeah.
When you open these tins,
it's like you got a candy, like you got a candy box
Yeah.
instead of it, but really, really delicious. And they're usually, I think, in high quality olive oil. And so it's a very, very special thing. I just tasted this with the elu, and I thought it was really good as well. Just so you know, because I think what works is that trout has kind of like a sort of an earthiness to it, and then the smokiness kind of just picks up the sort of combination of that earthy Cabernet Franc and Merlot driven note in the elu, and then as well the smokiness, just that slight bit of smokiness that you get from the oak, I think. I thought was a really nice combination.
I like that.
Yeah, kind of unexpected, but also I'm a huge fan of this style of fish, and so that may be a me thing.
Fantastic.
But really, really tasty. What do we think out there in the crowd? How are we happy? Everyone is they can hardly speak because they're just tasting, swallowing, chewing, slipping, swirling, etc. We had a question. Let's see. Big fan of Jose. Hello, folks. Okay. James says he's down for the blackened with the dollar hide Sauvignon Blanc. So that's great. So when it comes to the seafood piece, one of the things that we should talk about is just kind of how do you think about pairing, and because there are elements of there's umami, whether it's vegetables or sometimes some of the seafoods. There's sometimes elements of brininess, and then I think we also have to think about the weight of the fish, right? And that's where we might be getting into red wine land, because a lot of times I think historically people say red wine with red meat, white wine with fish and white meat, but you're not matching the color of the protein to the color of the wine. You're matching the weight of the protein with the weight of the wine. So if you have a heavier seafood,
But I think since that, was the 50s, and we weren't quite so creative in how we cooked then, right? When
Good
you're
point.
doing some miso and mushrooms and you're doing it with some cod and you've got a little red wine in there, I mean, you can go to red wine. I mean, there's you're blackening it, you're putting miso on it, you're doing it with mushrooms, you're doing all of these different exciting flavors.
Yes.
And we need to think about exciting wines today.
Right.
With those flavors, not a bland, plain steak, plain piece of fish. We have,
Right.
we're cooking, and we're cooking with Blue Food.
it's so good that you said that. And it's very true, because you're right. From the 50s or 60s to now, what people think of as food is just such a greater array of ingredients, possibilities. And I think what you said is something that I distill it down to. It's the prep, not the protein. So half the time you're looking at what's the sauce, what's the preparation, did you smoke it, did you blacken it, did you cover it in a cream sauce, and sometimes you're matching the wine to what was done rather than the core ingredient. Fair to say?
Yes, for sure.
And we say that the same thing about the fish. It's the dish, not the fish. So if you love this, but you may want something that's just like a gorgeous piece of salmon that you've actually lacquered.
Right.
So you might have a sweetness to it, and it's
Yes.
really dark and lacquered, which is something that happens in Alaska.
Yes.
I mean, obviously our indigenous communities would lacquer fish. It's so beautiful.
And so that means
And
where
you
they're
could
kind of
break it.
caramelizing a slightly sugary mixture, so that it will caramelize in the same way, almost that like a barbecue sauce that has sweetness will make a bark in a way.
That's right.
Okay.
And actually it's so beautiful because it does get crispy
Right.
and slightly smoky, because of course they would have been doing that over fire as
Right,
well.
right.
And that's another one where a little goes a long way. So you could have done a fattier fish.
Yeah.
Right? And this is the other thing that's important. I know you were talking about with Andrew, farm versus wild.
Yeah.
And salmon is always the one that we sort of zoom in on.
Right.
And the reality is that fat content, while there are a handful of good farm salmon like the Ora King, the king salmon, they're going to have a higher fat content.
Yes.
Than if you get a Copper River salmon.
Right.
So it's something to think about. Like, it's not that one's worse than the other. You need to know the source.
Yes.
You need to know if it's if it's fished in the right way with the right equipment, or it's farmed in the right way. And then I think the wines then become an expression of that with the fattiness as well and the mouthfeel of fish.
I was so much less sophisticated when I was doing this at the Sea Grill. I used to be the sommelier. It was a restaurant on the Rockefeller Center skating rink. It's something different now, but a great fish chef there, and he would do wild Copper River salmon. And I remember always thinking, now I realize what you're saying is that it was more lean as salmon goes. It was more lean. And so I would tend to go towards the lighter wines, because we did a whole thing on red wine with fish. We got lots of press about it because it was just kind of radical at the time. This is amazing, and when we're done with the show, I'm going to eat the rest of it. But in the meantime, we get to have another dish that we're going to try, and to bring us into the reds, because I told you already that I like the elu with that dish as well. And every time you're thinking about anything having smokiness to it, to me that's backing to the dish, not the fish. If you've got smoke in there, you can think about matching to the smoke flavor, and so that's just something fun to think about. But this one, we had a great time selecting, like, what are we going to cook? And this is where we landed.
Yeah, so we have a lightly grilled sturgeon that we then finished in a tomato masala sauce. It's honestly a really beautiful dish. And when I looked through the book, this one dish popped out and said red wine to me. Sturgeon is inherently going to have a more healthy structure to it. It's more akin to maybe a pork than it is a fish, so it really holds up to braising very well. And I think with red wine, it's something that we use often here to show off whitefish and red wine.
Fantastic. It looks amazing. It smells spectacular, and I showed you the picture of the dish from the cookbook. So you get this one was done with a lighter, flakier fish, but this is the point. It's the dish, not the fish. The whole thing we're matching to here is the combination of the sauce, and chef is upping the body of the fish, or the weight of it, to a heavier one, sturgeon, to push us into red wine land. So do you want to talk about this?
So I love sturgeon with red wine, and Chef has been doing a number of different preparations of it, and particularly with the elu, the freshness of the acidity and the length of it, I think is rather beautiful. But also just having some of the structure with this that you get from the Dollarhide Cabernet, that bold structure, but still great freshness, not a flabby wine, which is going to offset the seafood quite lovely.
Okay, I love my job. Man, oh man. Because we're at work, right? Ladies, we are at work.
We are working hard.
We are at work. This is what we do
yeah.
for a living. No, this is really something because,
Wow.
there's a gorgeous, lots of layers. Masala, I guess, is a really an approach to spicing, and that's on the Indian realm.
Yeah.
But this, I feel like I would happily use this sauce with everything from the lightest fish you can imagine up to a salmon and everything else. And just, you can change the wine according to really the weight of the whatever it is you're saucing. I don't know, this is just exciting.
And it also means that even those lighter fish, it's going to carry to the red wine.
Right.
Because of the sauce.
Because of the sauce.
Yeah.
The one thing that people will say is that they don't want to cook fish because they feel like it stinks up the house. And I think it's really important to everybody recognize we're not getting any strong aroma off of this fish.
It's true.
Part of the reason why fish gets fishy is because you're cooking it at too high of a temperature.
Okay.
And when you cook at that high heat, then it automatically loses a lot of that, a lot of those oils. Those oils come out, and all of a sudden you're getting all of that aroma. That's why when you cook in papillote in parchment, you don't smell the fish cooking at all. So it's, kind of think about too, sometimes I think that we cook fish at too high of a heat.
Right.
And in this case, this is something with the texture that could have been braised even.
Right. Yeah, and that's something that Andrew
good
was
point.
talking about, is that it's many, many fish or seafoods. I'm just going to expand it on that because I do braise. I will thaw. Sometimes in the South we say unthaw, which, like, what does that mean? It's kind of, I don't know, it's weird. But I will thaw frozen shrimp and then really just have something like this or a marinara or whatever and just braise it, like just basically leave it in there until it's done, and then maybe run it under the broiler if I want a little bit of brownness. I see Chef over there, he'd be like, if it doesn't have any browning on it, like that's browning or caramelization is flavor, so I realize we should probably do that. But sometimes braising is just like the quick and easy method, and then you don't have to, it's one pan type of thing. This is, I tried it with the Dollarhide as well. I thought it was delicious. And I haven't tried it yet. Has anybody tried it yet with the Veer 2? Because to me, I was thinking, what did you think?
I thought it was great.
So this is basically
We just got a fish dish that goes with every beautiful wine.
a
so
winner.
Stock up on every one of them.
Well, I think what's kind of true across the board is they all have good acidity and freshness, and I think that you want that with food, right? You don't want something that's cloying or too heavy on the palate.
Right. Well, and if you think about it, to me, what I've always thought about wine and why it's so special in the world of fermented beverages that you could, enjoy at a meal, is that it is like a condiment. The acid is such a standout characteristic of wine. If you open your refrigerator right now and look at the condiment drawer, whatever, what's there? It's all stuff with acid. Mustard has acid. Barbecue sauce has acid. Lemon juice. All of these
Worcestershire
things,
sauce, yeah.
right? So everything, if it's not salt that you're using as a condiment in the form of soy or salt itself, it's acidity. Wine does that. And so that's what makes it a standout, as well as the sustainable sourcing, because you're not going to sit there and talk about, gee, where did the grain come from for that White Claw? And I'm not bashing White Claw, because there are times when maybe that's the thing. But it's not going to be a conversation starter, and it's not going to talk about a place. Whereas the grapes and of high quality wine, they are something that are worth talking about.
It's something to savor, right? You're sitting down for a meal with your family, with your friends, or even alone. but it's the point in the day where it's the end of the day. Let's just savor the wine and the seafood and know that it's come from a place and it's been taken care of, and you're doing a good thing for the planet and for yourself as you sit down.
Exactly. I think the reason I left investment banking was because wine makes you be present, and investment banking, sitting in front of a screen watching pricing go by or trying to figure out interest rate swaps, my brain would wander. And I'd be like, I'm not here in my skin. So that's special to me. And I think that, and then it doesn't come in a single serving size except in certain circumstances. And so it's meant to be shared and conversed about.
Well, and it'll keep. You don't have to drink it all.
That is so
It will
true.
keep.
You just said something that most people, it's like being scared of fish, being scared of your wine going bad. Whatever color it is, stick the cork back in it, put it in the fridge. If it's a red, it'll come to temperature. Refrigeration retards spoilage no matter what it is. It's the whole point of refrigeration is to slow down things going bad. But wine has acid. How do we pickle things, or why do we do it? To preserve them. Wine has already got its own preservation system.
Well, and many of your wines might be better the next day.
That is so true.
There's, getting a little oxygen, especially with a young, bold red wine, you're probably going to like it more the next day.
Yeah, that is true. It's like the pot of chili, or I think this sauce, I mean, this is like, I want to just like rub it all over myself, but it is so good. But I also think it's the kind of sauce that will marry and advance, Now, when you are, could we look at you brought a kelp, and I just want you to tell us a little bit about that.
So I brought a couple of different things because we're starting to see really incredible products
Wait, what?
made
Whoa,
from kelp.
kelp chili crisp, golly.
Awesome.
My daughter is going to go crazy for that. She's
And
a chili crisp nut.
This is an incredible
Barnacle Foods.
female-owned company
Okay.
out of Alaska.
Wow.
And they make things like bull kelp salsas, and they make things like kelp pickles, which are every bit as good on your hot dog as this. And they're farmed kelps that are coming out of Alaska.
Wow.
That are really incredible. So, but what I was going to say was
cool.
all of these different things, like this, for example, is a Maine Coast kombu.
Yep.
And just like there is obviously terroir,
Yes.
to understand that whether it's a salmon or whether it's kelp, that the terroir is going to have these different effects on the flavor.
Okay, so le mer is the sea in French. So
Yes.
miroir is the taste of place from the water.
That's right, and that could be your oysters, which I think are the best
yes.
example. I mean,
Excellent example.
What Emma and I say is that bivalves, oysters, scallops, your mussels, and seaweeds, kelps and seaweeds are going to save the planet.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
completely regenerative. The oysters that you're eating, you get a sense of place from them because they're always named by the farm.
Right.
So you know exactly where they're coming from, but
True.
also these little guys actually filter 50 to 60 gallons of water a day.
Wow.
So supporting an oyster farmer is like supporting an ecosystem
Yeah.
and biodiversity that is so incredibly
Wow.
important.
Wow.
So whether it's the kelp, a Maine kelp, which there are dozens of different types of seaweeds and kelps from the state of Maine. There's also a lot that's happening. We will farm more kelp and seaweed in the United States than potatoes by 2040.
Woohoo!
And you talk about umami being added. This is such an important thing in like your tomato sauce.
Right.
And if we started to add, you don't have to, and I should say also, your sushi likely is kelp or seaweed from outside of the United States.
Interesting.
Because most of it is imported from Korea,
Got it.
which is not a bad thing. It's
Right.
it's the largest farmed seafood we have,
Okay.
our kelps and seaweeds. But look for these great US
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to
farmers.
find this kelp chili crisp
Yeah,
from Barnacle Foods.
Barnacle
Wow.
Foods. They've done
So
they've
good.
done kelp shortbreads. They've done
Wow.
kelp chips. I mean, anything that we have could actually have an addition to this, and it literally. We were just talking about it with the Scripps Institute of Oceanography last
cool.
night,
Right.
and they were saying like. it is the most important crop that you can support.
Yeah, we throw this stuff on everything, so I'm so excited about that.
You're going to have to fight Vince for that.
No, it's Vince's. I will order my own, but
I do find too the kombu. I mean, you talked about umami. I mean, I put the kombu in broth, and just it does bring this umami flavor to whatever you're cooking.
Rounds it out,
and it adds a depth and a center weight for me when I do put the kombu into my sauces, and I can pull it out, but I can add it in and simmer for flavor.
Right, kind of like a bouquet garni. You're going to take it out. In your stock or whatever. That's so interesting because I smoke. A lot of times I smoke my my holiday bird, and then I save the smoked carcass. Now I got to throw a little bit of kombu into the stock, and I get
here we are.
I've got some. I didn't mean to steal your kelp. Okay, so we are going to though wrap up on another sea vegetable, and you'll have to explain to us what this is. And we have your recipe from the Blue Food Cookbook, the chocolate chip, and am I saying this right? Dulce brownies. And I had the very difficult job of deciding between the Elu and the Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon and the Dollarhide Estate Cabernet Sauvignon, Dollarhide Branch Estate Cabernet Sauvignon, which wine goes best with these brownies. And I did do a social post about this, but this is I'll just show you where we landed. And yes, the Elu and the Cabernet and the Napa Cab in the back, but the Dollarhide was the clear winner. These are what I found about this recipe that was cool is that this was an applewood smoked dulce, so it gave some smokiness that I think makes it a bridge to the wine, and then it also brings the saltiness that you would normally want to have in a dish with some sweetness for the bridge to wine. It took care of that. But can you talk about this recipe?
I mean, I sort of made it my mission to throw dulse into and seaweeds into anything that I could. And I have to tell you, sometimes it went really well, like with this, and other times when last Christmas I decided to do gingerbread cookies with a seaweed frosting, maybe not so good. There was a little flecked and chunky and I thought I can puree this and get it like to a dust. No. And there's only one seaweed producer in Maine that actually makes a seaweed dust. So I'm going for that one this year. Maybe it'll go better. But in this case, there are all sorts of things that are happening with dulse. Dulse has actually natural smoked properties to it.
Oh, wow.
So it's one that you'll find it's really good if you fry it and do what we call a DLT. So dulse and lettuce and tomato sandwich.
Okay.
It's because it does have this really gorgeous, crispy nature to it.
Right.
But in this case, with the brownie, what I loved about it was that it made you're not always going to know that it's there. You won't know it's there.
Right.
But it made the chocolate, those natural esters in the chocolate, better. So it brought out that minerality. It brought out those components. And so then when paired with the wine, all of a sudden you get something that's magic. But the odds are you won't quite know why.
Yeah. And what's really cool to me about the pairing is that where it comes into its own is in the finish. And then all of a sudden, I feel like I haven't eaten dessert because I'm left with just this really smoky, mellow, and I'm just left with the woodsy quality of the chocolate as opposed to the sugariness, if that makes sense. And I think I was saying before, the dulse, the saltiness of that also tones down the overall sugariness of the dish and makes it bridge nicely to the wine. What do you think?
I think that that's the key. This isn't too sweet, and so it works with the wine. And the saltiness is and the little bit of smokiness, but really having that low sugar profile is key.
Exactly, because high sugar, and this is true if you order, sweet and sour chicken from the Chinese takeout, you're going to kill a dry wine with that sauce that comes with sweet and sour chicken. So you need to have that with something sweet. So when you've got a dry wine, you want to have some dishes that are not overly sweet because they'll pull the fruit right out.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's really important for everyone to know that you can find these. They're pretty readily available. This isn't like something that's esoteric. I think you got yours off of Amazon?
I did.
Yep.
I did.
And,
Yep.
And Barnacle has their own website. There's groups like Ocean Balance that
Yeah.
also have those. There's also Monterey Seaweed Company where you can get fresh seaweeds that are delicious. Most of us have never had a fresh seaweed salad.
Right.
I mean, that green stuff that you get in your favorite, Chinese restaurant is actually something that is bright green because they add the same addition like Mountain Dew.
Oh,
so the
boy.
chemical in
Okay.
it. So
Okay.
it's not. I mean, it's not. It's sort of produced for that.
Yeah.
But when you start to eat these seaweeds that have all of these different essences and all of these different flavors, there's a lot to play with.
Indeed. Wow. Well, I think we
won. What a home run,
yeah,
ladies.
Man, I mean,
Chef,
so
excellent.
exciting.
Chef,
And,
Winemaking team,
yes.
vineyard team,
Yeah,
it all
that's
comes
right.
together.
Absolutely.
Fishermen, water
Women
farmers.
Yes.
Yes.
With intentionality, right? Sustainable sourcing, the little choices that we all can make every day that benefit both our own physical health, but also our local community and then the planet more broadly. I mean, why not, right? Life is short, and every choice is a choice. If you're lucky enough to say that, and we are, then make it a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, where's the Reef?
Thank you all.
The Reef is right here in the Napa Valley, and it's cozying up just fine with Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon, which is our signature, and of course with Napa Valley Sauvignon Blanc and Sauvignon Blanc leaning in wines, which are our best kept secret. So
That's right, and get that cookbook.
yes, get the Blue Food Cookbook, which is really, really beautiful. Everything is very clear. The pictures are great, so you kind of know what you're going for, and now you know that how to source it. And there's so much more information in there too about what to look for, what to ask. Jen Bushman, Executive Director of Fed by Blue, Emma Swain, CEO of St. Supery, and our wonderful hosts here, and really a leading light in the Napa Valley, not just for wine quality and deliciousness, but for being really just all around great stand up as a business. Napa Green gives you just a small picture of that. It's not sustainability with just one little element, which is vineyard inputs, but it's the whole story because you have to look at everything, right?
You have to look at everything
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
And make it a little bit better.
Right. Continuous improvement. That's one of those things that everybody, it gives us something to aspire to, and it also keeps us working hard, keeps us honest, keeps us curious, and keeps us present. So with that, let's toast to this wonderful evening and all these
Cheers.
lessons.
Thank you. Thank
happy
you all for
holidays.
joining us.
Happy holidays to all of you. And just so you know, Quench will be taking a little break. We'll be coming back in January with a new location, a home base that will be very exciting. The opportunity for people to actually attend, larger than just the friends of the house people that get to attend in person, and an incredible lineup of themes leading up to America 250 and a very special documentary series that I'm producing and releasing. So stay tuned for information on that. And in the meantime, take great care of yourself and take great care of each other. And we love you, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.
Bye.